Oh. Welcome to May 9th Legislative Affairs Subcommittee. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call the members.
Roll call of the members. Councilor Keefe.
Here.
Here. Councilor Morbido.
Here.
Here. Councilor Novoselsky.
Here.
Here. Councilor Rizzo is absent. And Chairman, Council President Visconti. Here. Quorum is present. First matter on the agenda, motion presented by Council President Visconti and Councilor McKenna, that the mayor request the Board of Health and the Public Health Division to develop biosafety level regulations for the city of Revere. Further, that the city solicitor, city planner, and planning board be requested to draft a zoning ordinance to provide for up to and including biosafety level 2 research and development facilities, including life science manufacturing.
Okay. I believe we have obviously two motions on the agenda. I'd like to bring up the city solicitor and have him talk about the ordinance.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, guys. So the ordinance currently allows for research and development, essentially labs, to operate in Revere. We've just never had any that I'm aware of in my time that ever sought to come here and open up and operate here. So that's already on the books. What we don't have are any regulations. And I'll be working, I thought Lauren Buck was going to be here, but Lauren Buck in the Health Department will be putting together a set of regulations contingent upon whatever it is that ultimately will happen there. I'm going to try to do the best we can to prepare for any contingency. But I know there's a lab building going there, but I don't know what is going there or what kind of work is to be expected to go there, or to go on there. That's number one. I know that this council has had an interest, or at least this committee maybe, interest in limiting the types of labs that can go there. And there's 4 biosafety levels of labs, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 being the most extreme, which is never happening here. I've been told there's only a few in the world, and I'm still learning about this, so I'm not all that up to speed. So that leaves you with 1, 2, and 3. 1 being the sort of simplest, 3 being more complex. And in terms of the safety measures that have to be taken at each of those facilities, depending on whether it's a 1 or 2 and a 3. I'm understanding the council would like to keep it to 1 and 2 throughout the city. I honestly don't know if there's going to be a lot of other locations where labs may want to go. I suppose the Wonderland site would have been the other obvious choice, but that's probably not going to happen. So that just sort of really limits it to Suffolk Downs. I don't know enough about what goes on in 1, 2, or 3s to determine whether that matters or not. Whether keeping it at 1 and 2 is perfectly fine, or whether we'd want to have 3. Obviously, if we ever wanted to expand it, we can always change our ordinance to allow for it. But right now, our ordinance does allow for all 3. So I know that I'll be working with Ashley on modifying that ordinance if we need to reduce it from 3 to just 1 and 2 only. And animal testing, you want to know about animal testing? Yeah, certain labs do it and certain labs don't. There's the BLS safety level 1, 2, and 3, then there's the ABLS safety level 1, 2, and 3. Again, not knowing what's planning to come here, we can certainly control or limit it, but all animal uses do have, must follow the Animal Welfare Act and the state's Public Health Services Policy on Humane Care and Use of Laboratory Animals Act. So there are things in place to address how animals are used and treated. But again, I don't know what's happening or what's going there. We certainly wouldn't permit dogs or any sort of simians to be experimented on. And I doubt we're going to get a lab that's at that level anyway, but I don't know. I don't know if you guys are against any animals being tested on, including lab rats and guinea pigs, or you're just... And I honestly don't know. I haven't looked at the state law on that, so I'd be shocked to learn that it's okay to experiment on dogs, but I'm a dog owner, so that's why it would surprise the heck out of me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Do we have any questions from the council? What I would, let me start with that. Let's start with the subcommittee members, and if we have any questions from the subcommittee members.
Thank you, Mr. Visconti. Chairman Visconti, through you to Attorney Capizzi. You know, so we're obviously getting more information as things continue to come in, but, you know, just can you offer the assurances that as we do continue to develop these ordinances for the city, before any potential suitors do want to attend a site in our city, and most specifically, it looks like it could be something down Suffolk Downs. I mean, they're still going to have to come through us for special permits and come through us for the full permitting process, and then have to go through processes through the Board of Health, process through the building, and so it's not like, oh, we just open up the doors and anyone can just plop down tomorrow.
That's essentially correct. And with the new Board of Health regulations we hope to adopt, depending on how, to the extent that we adopt them, it may require a license for any kind of lab operation.
Correct.
So, yeah.
So we still have a lot of control over this process.
Oh, absolutely. Any ordinance that comes through here that you guys want to consider to either restrict or expand, obviously you have to approve. And then the Board of Health has to approve the regulations, which are also all welcome to attend any hearings they may have about the regulations. So nothing's going to happen blindly, or that isn't going to be transparent. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
I didn't think so.
No further questions.
Thank you. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I know that there's no occupant in there. So
Correct.
This is why we're trying to start the process. But I did hear, and I don't know if it's true or not, I don't have my homework done, but I did hear that Boston negotiated for a level 2, no higher. So I would like to follow suit with that and just either do a 1 or a 2. But I am totally against testing animals. So that's where I want to go.
I think, I haven't been able to confirm that about Boston. I've heard the same thing. Right now, our ordinance does allow for 1, 2, and 3, so we're going to talk about, or we plan to amend it to only allow for 1 and 2 if that's ultimately what the city wants to do. I'm waiting for someone to get back to me to confirm about what Boston did and how they have done it, because I know Boston does allow for 3 in other parts of the city. They have universities and all that other stuff. Again, I don't know. I don't imagine we're going to have thousands of labs or hundreds of labs or dozens of labs knocking on our door to come here. But it's best, I agree with you, Council, it's best to be prepared if and when it does happen.
Sure.
So a level 3 is, so a level 1, I did my homework with the labs. A level 1 is, it's non-invasive. They do testings on benches, and if they get a cut, they have to clean it. A level 2 is more invasive. They do staph infections, but level 3, they test West Nile virus and other things like that. And we're a densely populated city. We don't want anything. I mean, I understand it's regulated and the federal government regulates it, and it's really, you know, they're cautious, but you never know. I mean, you can't say, okay, they're going to do this and they're going to prevent that, but they're going to be strict about it, but you never know what's going to happen.
I
So-
don't disagree with you. However, I would like to have an individual come here who's an expert, more of an expert on this matter to educate us. I feel I lack sufficient facts and information to truly give you an absolutely informed opinion. When you hear level 3, you start to think the worst. My understanding upon talking to some experts is it's much safer than you could possibly imagine. It's not as if the whole building is at level 3. It could be a tiny piece of the building. It's really not a concern. Plus, think about this. These labs have no interest in coming and creating any kind of disaster, right? It's very bad for business. So it is regulated. Cambridge has strict regulations, and the labs like it, I'm told. The industry prefers that because there's certainty about what they're going to do. And as far as animal testing, we won't allow it at all except on West Highland Terrier dogs. That's the only dog. Oh, I'm sorry, Tony.
Any other questions?
Couldn't help myself.
No worries. Any further questions from my colleagues? Okay, hearing and seeing none. So just to give you an idea of it being my motion that I co-chaired with Councilor McKenna, what I would like to do, since there's an ordinance in place, what I'd like to do is actually revise that ordinance regarding the biosafety level research and maintain that or keep that at a level 2. Okay, so we can change that ordinance to a level 2. And what I'd like to do as well is for the city of Revere, as well as the Suffolk Downs Overlay District, add that to the Suffolk Downs Overlay District as well. So that being said, I'd like to have a vote on the floor tonight to see if we can take this out of committee and present it to the entire full council. So if there are no objections, actually, let's open it up to the public too as well. So I know Ms. Buck is here. Would you like to say a few words regarding this, or? Maybe after. Okay, no worries. Okay, yes, come to the podium. Okay, name and address for push the button.
Hi there.
Hi.
My name is Laurie Stathopoulos, and I have Salem Saves Animals. It's a foundation.
I'm sorry, name and address.
Oh, okay. I'm from Salem, Mass.
Okay.
125 Essex Street.
Thank you.
And I have Salem Saves Animals is a not-for-profit that raises awareness and money to help animals. We actually donated quite a bit of money right next door to Dr. Olga's to help heal them. But we also come and stand strong with people that are against certain things that could hurt animals. Now, when I spoke to everybody, it seemed there was a lot of confusion going on. And I think that's what your constituencies are very upset about, the Revere people. They want to make sure the animals aren't tested. While 3 and 4 are taken off, you guys are getting rid of that, thank you very much. Level 2, I asked a counselor what it is, and they really didn't know the details. So I researched it for you, and the first thing that came up was a glowing dog. Isn't that wonderful? So that's a virus that they injected into a dog in a level 2 laboratory. And so animals will be allowed there. And I also want to let you know that even in some of these biotech Revere Journal articles, that one of the counselors, I don't think it's anyone that's here now, but said, we're just jumping. We're so excited, we're jumping from the rooftops. Well, we're so unexcited, we're jumping from the rooftops. Here's my thing. Lynn, the city of Sin, wouldn't let this in. But Revere, that I found to be so fair, is letting it in. What's that saying? So I also want to let you know that I always put my money where my mouth is, so I'm educated as well. And I am now hiring an attorney and going to see this attorney tomorrow, interviewing quite a few to represent this. I beg you not to put level 2 in, because we also have Revere people that will be affected, the children that will be living close by if there's ever a leak, the elderly, and how about the fact that Did we even talk to the animal officer, control officer? Do we have a plan for, emergencies? This isn't about the animals, this is about all of Revere. And I know you guys are animal lovers, and, I respect so many of you, and I'm not here to argue or condemn, I'm here to help recommend and help fix this before it starts.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments from the public?
Hi, Michelle Kelly, 99 Derby Road, Revere. I share a lot of the beliefs that Laurie just went over, so I'm going to not go over all of those. I guess I have a question, and I just want a little explanation so that I can understand and not be ignorant to this whole process. I went back, I was given 2 meeting dates that this was discussed in council, and I went back and I tried to review those meeting dates. And I was present on the April 25th meeting where Joanne McKenna was nice enough to go through the definitions of all the levels, level 1 through 4, and what's done in those levels. My question is, when this process came up and was voted on, so I understand that zoning was changed in the city of Revere to allow for this lab to come in. Is that correct? Or do I have that wrong?
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't have that.
what's that? 2018, thank you, okay. So I guess then my question is, something came up before the council, a presentation or something. Why wasn't that information that we got from Joanne McKenna given at the time previous to the okay of this? In other words, it seems like it was given approval and given okay without anyone really knowing what goes on in these labs or the levels. I find it interesting that at this late stage in the game, she gave us the definitions. Why wasn't that all done way before this was approved and this was okayed? I just think that's kind of backwards.
I can't answer that, to be honest with you, but I don't think it's that late in the game. So you say late in the game, like they're walking in tomorrow and there's somebody that's going to occupy that space. That's not the case. So the building's not built, okay? It gives them the ability to build a life science building, which also, if I might say, took away apartments from the city of Revere, which people were up in arms about as well. So when you say late in the game, I'm not sure that's an accurate statement. I think we are doing this as some measures to put in place so some rules and regulations can be put forward. And I think it's in the early stages rather than late in the game.
Okay, so then are we still in the stage where we could prevent this from going in?
I don't know the legalities behind it. I would have to defer to the city solicitor on that. That I can't answer.
Because I think that's where my issue is that if there's no turning back from this now and something in the form of a life science building is going to go in there, then I just think the information regarding what exactly a life science building does should have been made available to everybody before that decision was made. That's the issue that I have. And I know I spoke to a couple of councils, I don't want to name them right now, but did say to me, I didn't really know what this was. I didn't really know what they were going to be doing there. So if something was voted on, and that was the level of information that they had when they made such a vote, I have trouble with that, because was that an informed decision? Was that an informed decision that was made by that counselor? If they didn't know, maybe if they have the information now and they were to vote on it again, maybe now they said, you know what? Now that I have all this information about exactly what goes on there, I don't think I'd be on board with it. So that's the issue, and that's the question I'd kind of like answered, and somebody to get back to me on if we could.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes,
All right.
great. Thank you for your point. Any other comments from the public? Hearing and seeing none. Also, what I'd like to do, like I said, you want to speak? Yeah, you want to speak? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Welcome.
Thank you. Has everybody already spoke on this issue?
Everybody, those who have wanted to speak on it have.
Okay, just for my own edification, is the actual vote coming out tonight, whether we want to go to a level 2 or a level 1, or we want to just continue to work on this? Is that the plan, to take a vote here tonight, or?
I think there is an ordinance set in place right now that allows for the city of Revere to entertain a level 3 biosafety limit, okay? What I would like to do is reduce that to a level 2. So I would amend the ordinance and put a new motion, and I'd like to do that this evening, to put a new motion on the floor to amend the ordinance and keep it at a level 2 for both the Suffolk Downs overlay district as well as the entire city of Revere.
Okay.
I mean, unless people, councilors feel the need to keep it in committee as well, then that can be done as well, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, far be it for me to sound like an expert in biolabs, but if there is levels 1 through 4, levels 1 being the least risk to residents, why would we not want to pursue a level 1 as opposed to a level 2?
We most certainly can. Level 2 has been, and that's fine. I have no problem. We can move forward and have further discussion about it if you guys like and would like to keep it in committee. I will say, I think in regards to the biosafety, I mean, the Suffolk Downs overlay district, okay, I know on the Boston side, I believe has kept that and negotiated it to a level 2. Okay, now we're at a level 3 right now, so there's no reason for us to be at a level 3. And I was looking to keep it somewhat the same. But if there is an appetite to reduce that as well to a level 1, then I'm happy to have further discussion on that.
Okay. Yeah, because, I mean, I just think, in the scope of the overall project, you're talking 160 acres. Granted, half of that's in East Boston, but, I just personally think, I mean, there's a lot of life sciences options for, and why expose our residents to anything more than, what the absolute minimum would be? That would be my feeling. I don't know, what Boston does on their end is what Boston decides. And truthfully, what Boston does on their end, I mean, assuming that they're going to have the biolab, I thought this biolab was being built in Revere, unless they're going to have multiple ones. But the one that was proposed that Mr. O'Brien spoke to when this vote was taking place was, he said, oh, I'm going to build you a great life science building and this and that. And, it was one of the reasons, Mr. President, and I'm not saying this for any, I have no reason to have any type of gain, but it was, in the interest of full disclosure, that was not one thing, that really was not a reason I chose not to vote on it. But I just thought that we could have probably, put a lot more thought into like what might happen if this is put in place or that's put in place or this. So as it stands right now, if we were going to vote on it tonight, I'd like to vote on a level 1. If we're going to if this is going to a vote, if you were, or like members of the council, members of the committee wanted to leave it in committee, I would be okay with that, but I would want to do something quickly to protect our interest in case they come forward with a project, specific tenant, and now we've got level 3 in place. I don't think that is working well for us right now. So that's all my comments, Mr. President. Thank you.
Yeah. 1 second.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is all very informative as far as I'm concerned, but when we did the overlay district and allowed a biotech building in it, there were no, like Danny said, Councilor Rizzo said, there were no specifics on what company or what type of life science was going into it. It was just a generic biotech building. But with these, even if we vote on changing anything tonight, whether it stays in committee now or comes out now, we still have to write the ordinance, we still have to have a public hearing on it, and go through all this information again. So don't think that just because we vote on something tonight, it's going to be effective right away, because it's not. So I just want everybody to be clear on that. And, so, I'm open, whatever, people really convince me. I have no problem with going to 1 or a 2. Definitely get rid of the 3, and we'll move on from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McKenna?
Just to inform the councilors and the public, Tom O'Brien is coming next week. We're having a public meeting. It's 1 hour. It's 5 o'clock for anyone who wants to attend. And he said he would answer every single question that's asked. So I just want to inform everybody that that's what's going to happen next week, Monday. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Silvestri?
Thank you, Mr. President. Although I'm not on the committee, I think a smart decision for us to be making right now is to allow Mr. O'Brien to come in and speak. We get caught up to speed on what exactly we can do. I just looked up a quick company. They're called Fast Company. They're with General Electric. They would technically be a level 2 lab, and all they do is make equipment for mammograms. I mean, I think we need, as a council, to be up to speed on what exactly a level 1, what a level 2, and what we're blocking before we put any orders into play. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more.
I just want to sort of echo what Councilor Silvestri just said. I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I think all of us in this room lack sufficient facts and information to understand what really is a level 1, level 2. The way the discussion is going right now, there seems to be this understanding that a level 2 is inherently dangerous. I don't know if that's true. Labs do all kinds of different things. You can have a level 1, level 2, level 3 that has no animal testing. You can have it have radiation, radioactive testing. So I don't want us to rule out the possibility of getting a good employer in here if we don't yet know exactly what's happening. So Councilor Novoselsky is right. When the ordinance originally passed, it was with the understanding that we wanted to welcome that industry here, but it couldn't be so specific because it's really a broad range of different things that labs do. And I think it's great that the gentleman will be coming next week. I'd like to have, through Lauren Buck, there's a gentleman in Cambridge. I don't know what his title is. But he's a neutral party in all this. I'd like to have him come and talk to the council or a particular committee to sort of update all of you on what it means to be a level 1, a level 2, and the various degrees of all that's involved with both of those or all 3 types of biosafety.
Thank you. Councilor Cogliandro?
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the city solicitor. You had mentioned that there was other types. We have BSL 2 here. You said there was something along the lines of BSLA.
There's a BSL 1, 2, 3, and 4 as far as I know. Again, I'm not the expert on this. And BSL 1 being obviously the least of concern, and BSL 4 being so particular, it's never going to come to
Right, so it's just, so my concern is with us writing the ordinance properly. I want to, and I also share the concerns that Councilor Rizzo does. If someone pulled a permit today, we wouldn't be able to do anything about it.
It's not entirely true. It depends on where it's going and whether it needs a special permit or not. And plus, we want to have Board of Health regulations put in place so they get inspected. They follow what our regulations require. Now, it's in the use table, and it's defined. That's really all that's going on. There's nothing in the ordinance that says how big it will be, what it will do, how high the ceiling. There's none of that. It's not that specific, just like we have a use table that allows for a grocery store. Once you see the proposal, then you work on what the particulars are of that particular proposal. So it's not that specific. The regulations are ultimately going to control all the safety measures, fire concerns, things of that nature.
Thank you.
Councilor Keith?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the leniency on speaking again. I just wanted to point that out, and the attorney pointed that out well. Just being in the zoning, I'm the zoning chair this year. And you know, some of these overlay districts that you've probably seen in a part of the city of Revere over the last 50 years, you know, the overlays are very overarching. And then there's all these little micro events that happen throughout that continue to shape the ordinance and shape the zoning. So when you make these overarching zoning changes in overlays, yes, they can be a little ambiguous. But as they continue to get closer and as we continue to find the ways that they define our city, that's where more comes in front of us, more comes in front of the planning board, more comes in front of the health department, so that the final decisions can be made on people coming in and what and how those are actually finalized. So, you know, none of us, when that overlay district was created in 2018, you know, no one was like really going down to the deep levels of bio hazards. I can, you know, Councilor Rizzo, Councilor Serino, Councilor Novoselsky, Visconti, Morbido, McKenna, myself were on the board. I'm not sure I was in zoning, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of things that happen, just like the overlay district that was the TED district, and you continue to just go into all of these. And we just make decisions down the road that will shape it, and we have that power to stop and to allow different types of technologies and businesses. But when that came in front of us, as a city, it was exciting because, as mentioned, if you said, we're going to build 500 units on Wonderland, or we're going to build we're going to be able to have robotics and life safety businesses and jobs for Revere residents, everyone in this room would say, I'll take the life safety and the robotics labs over the 500 apartments, right? And that's pretty much how that starts. So we have now, we're going 4 or 5 years later, we'll be able to help define on how that actually comes to fruition. And trust us, just like one of the residents said from Salem, we all love animals. I have animals. I have been doing a lot of research. I'm fairly certain the state of Massachusetts, without super special exceptions, is allowed to test on anything other than lab mice. And even that I kind of cringe at. But if it comes down to saving my family member's life over testing for a drug or testing for some sort of a cancer screening, I'll take the lab mouse over my family member every day. I'll take my family member over the lab mouse every day of the week, you know? And I think everyone would do the same, you know, and we don't want to see that, anything that you're seeing in these Google pictures, I'll just say it, to give bad information out to residents, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Go ahead.
Thank you. Tony Zambuto, 87 High Street. Just to, because I know a little bit about this project, this was a PUD, P-U-D. Everything that happens there has to be done by special permit, unless something's changed that I don't know about. So I understand that a lot of us, especially me, don't know hardly anything about these levels, and but I think just for the edification of the public, we are protected in a lot of ways. This overlay district just simply gave them a PUD, and that everything that comes before, everything has to come before the city council for a special permit that's built there. Thank you.
And, okay.
So because we didn't know what level 2 was when I asked one of the counselors who loves animals, I did a little research. And when I found, I have this for you guys. Can I give it to some of you? And then we'll give you some later. Joanne?
I'll take a copy for the
Oh, thank
council
you.
and I'll distribute it.
Oh, thank you. And we'll get more. So when you look at level 2, you're going to see that there's a lot of danger there. That's all I'm asking you to do tonight, is to look and see what we're getting into. So maybe we should hold off before a vote.
Okay.
And take a look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are clear, okay? This motion is, now that it's an ordinance change, okay? Like I believe one of the counselors said, this is going to go to a public hearing, okay? And then get sent back to legislative affairs to have more discussion. But voting on this tonight starts the process, as far as I'm concerned. So there is a process of getting it on the agenda, getting it in front of a public, in front of a public hearing, so we can have continuous discussions. But this motion basically will start that process rather than keeping this in committee, where it's going to just come back into committee. And if changes need to be made, we can make those changes at a later date, as far as I'm concerned. So if there is no objection, and I don't know what the will of the council is, or the subcommittee, I should say, but I am in favor of voting this out this evening, knowing that it's going to start that process for further discussions later on down the line. Like I said, and like the city solicitor said, we have other people coming in front of us, and that can all happen, whether it's the public meeting or when it gets back into legislative affairs, and it can get adjusted again. So I wouldn't be against that. So that's my take on that. So if there is no objection from the subcommittee members, I would like to vote this out this evening, so that we can start that process.
Mr. President,
Chairman?
just before we vote, you know, again, I think we're all up here acknowledging that we're not experts in biolabs. And so, I totally understand where you're coming from. This will start the process, but, you know, it just seems to me, where I don't know enough to say, I'm going to vote on a level 2. What does that mean? Should I really think and vote on a level 1? Councilor Silvestri made a very valid point. If somebody's making mammogram machines, there's no testing on live animals, that would be a great thing. I would love to see that happen. But to vote on, blanket, let's go to level 2, and then there's going to be discussion, I just don't think that I'm prepared to make a vote to go to level 2 when I don't know that it shouldn't be level 1, or it should, I don't know anything about it, Mr. President. So I'm just, if I do vote in the negative, it's not because of your motion, it's just because of my lack of knowledge on what I'm actually voting on, because I truly don't know what entails the level 2 vote. So I just wouldn't feel comfortable on it.
Where it's, I guess, the will of the subcommittee, we'll end up pushing this off and keeping this in committee. I have no objection to that.
And that was all three motions, Chairman?
Yes, all two motions. Okay. Seeing that there is no further business, this concludes the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee meeting. Thank you.
I know we're all friendly here, but I do want to remind everyone that we ask that you don't the stanchions. Calling to order the zoning subcommittee of Monday, May 9th. We'll all rise and salute the flag.
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of the members, Councilor McKenna?
Here.
Here. Councilor Novoselsky?
Here.
Here. Councilor Sereno?
Here.
Here. Council President Visconti?
Here.
Here. And Chairman Keefe?
Here.
Here. Quorum is present. First matter on the agenda tonight is an application on Carbell LLC, 355 Middlesex Ave, Wilmington, Mass., seeking permission from the Revere City Council to raise the existing nonconforming structures on 25 and 55 American Legion Highway and construct 2 new structures.
Do we have anyone representing Carbell LLC? There you go.
Paul Nealand, I'm the manager of Carbell LLC and Balboa LLC.
Thank you, Mr. Nalen. I know that you were in front of us last week and gave a very nice presentation along with, mostly affirmative responses from the council. I basically, for myself, and I know that some other councils probably wish to speak here, had really, outside of what your proposal was, which I thought was very nice, and I know that there's a lot of excitement in being able to bring the new industry into the city with the urgent care, and obviously, you're not going to go wrong if you offer to bring a Starbucks into the city. But one of my only real concerns after going through your entire presentation and the work that you're going to do on the site was, offering assurances that during those initial, I would say 6 to 8 weeks, actually, 4 to 6 weeks of peak hours, peak service, breakfast and evening time, morning and evening time, being able to commit to offering detail services from the police department.
So subsequently, Catherine Hannigan and myself reached out to the city and we said that we wanted to work cooperatively with the safety officer. I think we talked to the police chief, or at least communicated via email, and expressed our willingness to cooperate and do whatever we needed to do without any bookends of time, whether it was 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. We want to make sure that we don't have any spillover traffic on American Legion Highway. I don't think that's going to happen, but it may happen a little bit at the beginning because of people's traffic patterns. They're not used to what's going on, but in short order, I think that'll resolve itself, and we'll be there to attend to any concerns that the city has.
Thank you. And I did speak to the police chief, and he acknowledged that you had reached out. He also said that they would be observing. If everything works out great, then they'll be happy to let you off. And if it doesn't, they would work with you in making sure that
we'll do what's practical so
Right.
that the safety concerns are addressed,
Thank
whatever
you.
that may be.
So those are the one question. That was really one big issue I had. Outside of that, any of the councilors on the zoning subcommittee have any questions? Council President Visconti.
Thank you. My concerns were very similar to yours, obviously, and I think it's a job or a build-out that is going to enhance the city. My concerns are the traffic situation that it's going to cause in the morning, and I think that's when the peak hours were. So if we have some agreement with the manager of the development, then that's good. I'd like to have it in writing, obviously, as a condition. Now, my only other concern is if that continues. Okay, I know we have it, like the gentleman said, if it does continue and there's an ongoing traffic concern after that length of time, I'd like to make sure that that still adheres, that the safety officer, one of a detail, is still there and still needed. I'd like for that to still be required. Thank you.
Thank you. And The clerk will also, there was some site plan conditions that will be included, I believe also the CIT funds, Madam Clerk, but if the clerk could read those into the record, I know this may also resolve any questions you may have, because the conditions are pretty specific. Madam Clerk.
Conditions from site plan review. 1, sewer, water, and stormwater management plans must be reviewed and approved by the city engineer and chief of infrastructure. 2, the plans must be reviewed and approved by the fire department, including the need for any new fire hydrants and fire safety access. 3, the final landscaping plan must be approved by the site plan review committee, including the planting of trees along the frontage on American Legion Highway and Everett Street, and the enhancement of the landscaping of the site adjacent to Mahoney Circle. 4, new concrete sidewalks with granite curb butts at all driveways must be installed along the frontage of the property along American Legion Highway and Everett Street. 5, the driveway entrance on American Legion Highway shall not allow for a right turn directly to the drive-through lane, and a do not enter sign shall be installed at this location to prevent traffic queuing into the site. 6, the Traffic Commission shall evaluate the need to make Everett Street a one-way in the northerly direction from Mahoney Circle entrance to the most southerly driveway into the adjacent shopping center to prevent any egress onto Mahoney Circle from Everett Street. The rest of Everett Street shall remain a two-way. 7, this project shall be subject to the Community Improvement Trust Fund. And 8, police detail as required to address traffic safety concerns.
Thank you. Any other councilors on this? I know that, I'm not sure if any of the public is here for this piece of business tonight, but if there's anyone that had anything? No, doesn't look like that. No adversaries here.
That's good. I think it's a net gain across the board.
Well, it speaks to the work you've done in the past,
All right,
so
thanks.
good job. Okay, if we have that, Madam Clerk, could you take the roll on this?
Shall the zoning subcommittee offer a favorable recommendation on the special permit, subject to the conditions of site plan review in the zoning subcommittee? Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Sereno?
Yes.
Yes. Council President Visconti?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Keefe?
Yes.
Yes, the special permit has received a favorable recommendation. Next up is the special permit for Revere Dev LLC, 304 Squire Road, requesting a special permit from the Revere City Council to enable the appellant to raise the existing structure and construct a new fast food restaurant with a drive-through window at 304 Squire Road.
Thank you. Attorney D'Ambrosio, name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Attorney Jerry D'Ambrosio for the applicant here, which is Revere Dev, also known as Popeyes of Louisiana Kitchen. Along with me this evening is Mary Ann Difflin. She is the engineer on the project and is going to put up a diagram that will represent the traffic flow for this project. I believe you saw it at the last meeting anyway. I figured I'd put it up so anyone could see it. Just by way of summary, this parcel is at 304 Squire Road. 304 Squire Road has situated a restaurant or a restaurant use for at least 50 years. After I made that representation last time, I had a number of Revere residents who called me and said that I was being short, that in fact it had been used as a restaurant going back almost 100 years ago when there was an airport in that part of Revere, and it was used as a restaurant facility to help service the pilots that would fly into Caruso's farm in that Squire Road area. So I can verify at least 50 years, but some of the old-timers in the city tell me that it's been here even longer than that. It's an RB district, or it's a GB district, which means that a food establishment is allowed there as a matter of right. So a restaurant is allowed as a matter of right. I can tell the city council that in 2011, there was a special permit request for both a fast food use and a drive-through use. And that request in 2011 was made by the Honeydew Donut, which was the past tenant of this building. In 2011, that special permit was allowed by this city council. What has happened since then is that the fast food use has been utilized by the Honeydew, but they never put in the drive-through. Hence, we're really before you today on a request for a drive-through. At the end of the day, it's important that everybody understand that a restaurant use, a fast food use is already allowed there currently as a matter of right. That currently at that premise there are exit ways onto Squire Road, entrances onto Squire Road that are utilized as a matter of right. There are currently exits and egresses onto Derby Street that are used as a matter of right. So currently, the current structure allows for traffic to flow into Ward 6 and into that residential neighborhood. I can tell you that currently, Sigourney Street is closed with a makeshift metallic fence. Because this property has now been transferred and Popeyes has purchased it, they have as a matter of right the ability to open that up onto Sigourney Street. If they wish to utilize the current restaurant, okay? They also have, as a matter of right, the ability to use that ugly billboard that sits on top of it that's been there for the last 30 years. So my clients have purchased it, and they're here today, in essence, improving that site. And they're going to improve it in a number of different ways. First, they're going to clean up that blighted site. I think if any city councilor has driven through that property today, they will see that it's a mess. The landscaping beds are a mess, the asphalt is a mess, the fence is a mess, the building is a mess. It's blighted is the only way to describe it. In its place, we're going to get a brand-new state-of-the-art facility, a facility that's going to have new rooftop ventilators for smoke and smell, air conditioning, state-of-the-art construction. The building itself will be up to code. Apart from that, I've also been told by some of the neighbors who are in support of it that that particular lot currently has some water issues, that water accumulates on the backside and spills over at times when there's heavy rains. As part of this process, there's going to be an entirely new drainage system put in for this parcel, so that won't happen. It'll be brought up to code, and Popeye, a corporate owner, is going to pay for that. So the water problem that currently exists on that site will be alleviated as well. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, you're going to have new landscaping plans, pretty much 10-foot beds all the way around. I believe as you get to Sigourney Street, it tapers down to about 8. They're going to have new plantings, and I think you could see on this diagram, again, it's a rough rendition, but you're going to have new fencing, 8 feet tall, all around the site. So you're going to have an 8-foot fence, literally encompassing 3/4 of the way around this property. What will that fence do? It's going to block view, right, which is great for the neighbors. It's going to be 8 feet tall, so it's pretty tall. On top of that, it's going to prevent any trash and litter from getting out of that parking lot. Currently, you don't have that. It's basically a small chain link fence on the Sigourney Street, which is, I think, 4 feet tall. And then on the Derby Street, you have no fencing at all. So stuff is flowing in and out of that lot, making a mess. On top of that, currently, you don't really have sidewalks for this property. You have quite a bit of asphalt, cracked asphalt on the front and Derby Street and Sigourney Street sides. As part of this upgrade, Popeyes is going to come in and install brand-new cement sidewalks all around the property at no cost to the city. On top of that, again, you're going to have all kinds of new landscaping. It'll be subject to site plan review, so Frank Stringy will have a say on what kind of trees, what height, what kind of shrubbery. But again, if anyone goes into there now, they're going to see that it's pretty hideous. So it's going to be a major upgrade there as well. Another improvement for this plan is that both Derby Street and Sigourney Street are going to be closed to traffic. So currently you have a situation where any restaurant that goes in there, even Popeyes without a drive-through, has a right to utilize their entranceways into Sigourney and into Derby. My client, Popeyes, is giving up that right as a condition of this special permit. They're going to close off the entranceways into Sigourney and into Derby. The only flow of traffic will be into Squire Road. That is a dramatic improvement to what is currently there now. The billboard will also be taken down. Councilor McKenna, but that ugly billboard will also be taken down and not replaced. And then finally, in working with some of the neighbors, it seems that one of the big concerns is that there's been quite a bit of trash that comes over from the other side of the highway. And Popeyes has taken the extreme step of actually agreeing to a condition to the special permit that their personnel will actually patrol Derby Street from the corner of Squire Road all the way down to Grover Street and back. At least twice a day, they will pick up any trash that is related to their Popeye facility. I think no other store along Squire Road has that requirement as a special condition, but Popeye, being a good corporate neighbor, and again, these are corporate-owned stores, they're not owned by franchisees, are more than willing to allocate the employee resources necessary to make sure that all trash is picked up on Derby Street. And again, that came up through conversation with the neighbors. That is a rough summary of the project. I think in your packet you have plans of traffic flow and everything else there. I'm here to accept questions, and we're willing to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. D'Ambrosio. I know that there's some residents here to speak on this, so I guess before I hear from the council, I'd like to hear from the residents. If anyone wishes to voice their opinion on this subject here, please feel free to do so. Come on up. If you want to form a line, just so we know how many, and try and work with everyone's time.
Attorney Michelle Kelly, 99 Derby Road, representing myself. I have a lot of questions, but I think where I want to start is Attorney D'Ambrosio. Is that the correct pronunciation? D'Ambrosio?
It's D'Ambrosio.
D'Ambrosio. He was referring you to the special permit issued in 2011 to Honeydew Donuts. However, there's quite a few differences in that regard when that permit was issued. Specifically, we just heard that traffic could exit out of the, right now as it stands, or in 2011 when that permit was issued, that traffic could exit out of the parking lot onto Derby. Technically, that's not correct. It could exit onto Derby, but it was prevented from taking a right-hand turn. So this restaurant is situated at the corner of Squire and Derby. When that traffic from the special permit that was issued in 2011, the condition, it's paragraph 5, special permit, May 16, 2011, as a requirement that traffic had to exit out of the parking lot, was prevented from going down Derby, down the residential road. It had to make a left back onto Squire Road. As a condition of that permit, Traffic Commission had to be petitioned to make the bottom of Derby Road a two-way street. That may have been why Honeydew Donuts didn't enact on the drive-through and put it in, because I don't know if the Traffic Commission ever approved making the bottom of Derby Road a two-way street. So technically, to just say it was already given in 2011, therefore it should be given now, that's a flawed argument. That's incorrect. The other thing is that the special permit, from what I understand, Honeydew Donuts had the minimum required amount of parking. I understand that Popeyes does not. They're actually, and I'm not hearing that, but I think as a requirement, what they are asking to be waived is the required amount of parking, which is 13 spaces. They do not have the 13 spaces, which tells me, if you ever go to an establishment that's situated on a corner, usually you go by the establishment. If there's no parking, you try to park in front. You can't because it's Squire Road, and then what's the first thing you do? Go around the corner and see if there's any parking on the side street. So I can assure you that in addition to traffic on Derby Road that's going to be increased from the patrons, there's also going to be an increase of vehicles being parked there. That's going to bring up a safety concern, because those patrons that are going to park on Derby Road are now going to want to walk down Derby Road onto Squire Road to try to get into the building, which means they'll probably be walking in front of the cars that are exiting the drive-through. So that's a bad plan in my mind. That, in addition, there's kids that play at the bottom of that street. Cars are gonna, why we're being told that traffic is going to stay on Squire Road and not go back onto Derby is beyond me, because everyone uses Derby Road as a cut-through now. We're taking traffic from Market Basket, from Squire Road, from Northgate. We're going to be, the Amazon building isn't even completed yet. We're going to be taking more traffic from that. That's going to be added to congestion. So when Squire Road gets backed up and it's full of traffic, the first thing those cars want to do is get off of Squire Road. And the first opportunity they have to do that is Derby Road. And trust me, they do it. And so they're only going to do it more. How this isn't going to be impacted more is beyond me. Of course it's going to. The other thing that they do not have, I don't believe, is the 10-foot residential buffer zone. They also don't have that. And I believe Honeydew Donuts did have that in their special permit in 2011. They had that buffer zone, or at least it was a condition of their special permit, paragraph 3.
Are you suggesting for the building, or are you suggesting for the, I mean,
From the back, well, I know from the plan that I looked at, it looks like the dumpster is right up against the next residential, the abutting house is a
usually,
residence.
so the 10-foot, I believe, setback is from usually the building, but I do see on the plans the dumpster in the back, which is, just like Joe's Mobile, I think they have different settings, but I understand where you're coming from.
Right, so,
Correct.
I mean, where that's so close to a residence, I mean, we have to understand, I understand this is commercial, okay, but it is sandwiched between two residential streets. If this restaurant was being proposed across on the other side of the highway, there wouldn't be a problem with it at all, because you don't have residential streets right there. And if you notice on Squire Road, there are actually less restaurants on this side of Squire Road. We've got banks, we've got dentist's office, but we don't have a lot of restaurants, and it's because there's so many residential side streets there. The other thing that's not being brought up is the hours of operation. I understand Honeydew Donuts had that was another thing. I think they closed at like 7 or 8 o'clock. They weren't open till 1 or 2 in the morning.
Mr. Chairman, point of information.
Council Sereno.
Although we haven't gotten to the full conditions yet, as a condition, I made sure we discussed the hours of operation, and Popeyes has agreed, actually less than the other 2 Popeyes locations that are in Lynn and Everett, to limit their drive-through from 10 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Sunday to Thursday, and Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 10:30 p.m., which would essentially mean the drive-through would have to close 1/2 hour before the actual restaurant closes.
I
So,
understand,
to
but the
that-
reason why I'm bringing this up is because the comparison is being made, or the argument is being made, that this special permit is okay because a special permit was given in 2011. That special permit and those hours of operation for that establishment were much different than what we're dealing with here. So to rely on that
Ms.
special
Kelly.
permit of 2011 is flawed.
Just so you're, to your edification, and I know that it's probably in your legal nature to, this is what having that as a title, you want to create a defense, or we don't, just because someone comes up here, we don't take everything for every word. We do look into the things, and one of them being how the drive-through operates. So we have to take that balance, correct, with what they're willing to do and what they're not willing to do, and then that's how we make our decisions. So we don't take everything at its word, because we know that there's going to be sometimes things that are glossed over. That's also in the nature of people trying to make a compelling argument. So,
Right.
But if you want, if you can just present your concerns, and if we have any other residents, we'd love to hear them.
Sure. So the concerns, again, the hours of operation, even if it's 9:30, 10:30, whatever it is, we're still, the wall, the shrubs that they said they were going to put there, it's not going to drown out the noise from the cars and all of that. Also, I just don't know other conditions on here. I know that from the 2011, they did have to make sure that the lighting was shielded. I don't know if that's going to be handled. I know that they said they would do something about traffic. I have litter.
We'll read into the conditions as well. There is some light. The light has to be facing a certain way, and those are site plan requirements as well. But we can certainly talk about any of the conditions that are being offered.
Okay. Well, I just want to, and again, they said that they would offer twice a day to go down and clean up litter. If that's not being done, who do the residents, how is that being policed, and who do the residents contact? I think Mr. Sereno told me that would be the building department, and I can't imagine contacting the building department, telling them that litter's not being picked up. But Okay.
Point of
But
information?
I just want to, in the 10-car stacking capacity that is
Point
required
of
around the
information?
building?
Councilor Rotundo, state your point.
Mrs. Kelly, in order to answer your question, someone would call 311, and that's how that would be answered.
Okay, thank you. So the 10-car minimum stacking capacity for the drive-through, do we know if that is going to be met?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I would just, again, this isn't a typical restaurant. There are cases, if you Google, you can see when they run their promotional specials and their special sandwiches and all that. You've got cars that are backed up for hours trying to get in, and so that's going to be a concern too. Between the congestion, the traffic, the rodents, the litter, not having enough parking, the noise, the hours of operation, this just isn't a good fit for the community and the neighborhood.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
Thank you.
Any other residents on this matter? And we're coming up on full council, so if you could keep your comments as direct as possible, it'd be great.
My name is John Pedicini, 139 Sigourney Street. I'm an abutter to this project. I'm also the former owner of this property that has applied for a permit. My concern is that my property abuts 53% of the rear lot line of this property, and the dumpster is being put within 10 feet of my property line in the back. I cannot accept that right now. It's been switched twice, and the city of Revere pays for a contractor to put rodent traps on that very line that this dumpster is going on. This is a picture of one of them. The hot top is 139 Sigourney Street. The grass area is 304 Squire Road. So you're putting a dumpster next to this, and you're already paying a contractor to relieve the situation. The question I have for Revere City Hall is, does the right hand know what the left hand is doing? I mean, it's counterproductive. Secondly, up in this corner, where is it? Right over here, towards the, here it is, right there. Grassy area is being put between two commercial pieces of property. Why? Why isn't that grassy area moved down to buffer between the residential and the commercial? That's where every other city and town does. But you can see it over here. This is a grassy area over here, and this property is the Black Lace building. And it's right behind it is the grassy area. The dumpster is over here, and the rat traps are along there right now as we speak. This picture was taken yesterday.
That's current site, I believe, and that's all landscaping along the left, correct? Down at the bottom? Yeah. Oh, that's all landscaping and landscaping.
Correct, and the dumpster's right in there.
Yeah. Okay.
They have 7 feet plus 3 of screening of shrubs.
Right.
So you have 10 feet going here. But.
So if you can just, your concerns.
In 1998, Frank Stringy and I walked this property to determine where the best place was to locate the dumpster before Honeydew moved in. Okay, we determined right there, where it is now, 75 feet away from the Sigourney Street lot line and over 150 feet away from Derby Road. I have no problem with that location. I've had no problem, 25 years it's been there. Okay, so I would urge that spot be highly considered by the council on this property.
Thank you.
That's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm taking note on the dumpster because that was a question I did have. If there's
One other thing, I heard
the
the collection of rubbish on Derby, Sigourney should be considered too. If we do get rubbish from that site. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Council Morbido.
Is there currently a residence behind where the dumpster was located when Honeydew was the occupant?
I believe it's the Black Lace commercial residence, correct? Yeah. It's that little commercial property. Any other neighbors? Name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. Gennaro Cataldo, 140 Derby Road, also resident of 35 Augustus Street. Reason for me being here, I wanted to echo Councilor Sereno's hours. I wanted to ask you to make that as part of the special condition, as I own 140 Derby, a direct abutter, and my residents there, the two families that live there, would appreciate some relief after 10:30, absolutely. Those hours seemed reasonable and acceptable. Also, I do want to echo Mr. Pedicini's issue with the dumpster. Please keep it away from our properties where it is right now. In the original plan would be something that would be acceptable. The Revere Dev LLC, through Attorney D'Ambrosio, has been very receptive to comments from us. So we want to keep that going. I know it will go to site plan review, but as part of the special conditions of this permit, I ask you that you consider the hours placed by Councilor Sereno. All right? I realize we are also doing a study in the area, as it should be done, for the traffic. Traffic is an issue, a major issue on Derby Road that needs to be addressed, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Sergeant Giannino has put together when that is due. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other residents?
Hi, my name's Cara Ruggiero Linares, and my husband and I live at 111 Sigourney. And one thing that I didn't hear mentioned before is that, so they only have a limited amount of parking actually in the restaurant. Over the past few years, there's been a huge increase in sort of like meal delivery services like Grubhub, Uber Eats, things like that, where, you know, you place your order through an app and someone goes and picks it up for you and brings it to you. You know, that first thing, I used to be a restaurant manager. I'm still involved in the restaurant industry. I've dealt with a lot of the drivers. The first thing they do, they will leave their cars wherever they want because they get paid by the delivery. So they're leaving their cars wherever it is most convenient for them to run in, grab things, and run back out. So that would be a concern for me, that if they can't find parking, where their car's going to go. I'd also like to ask that Sigourney be included in any kind of trash pickup that's being done. We do get a lot of trash on Sigourney. I pick stuff up off my front yard every morning, and it seems like it just constantly gets replaced. There's a lot of wind. It's blowing around a lot. Yeah, so that was all I wanted to mention.
Thank you. Before I open up to the call, I just wanted to get these two quick ones off. If Mr. D'Ambrosio, you're representing the site. Would the applicant be amicable to moving, so I'm looking at the shrubbery on this lot line. Would they be willing to move the dumpster area in between where the trees are, to switch that out so it's away from the housing and the back line of the property? It would be more on the side, they can gate it in?
So the applicant is very willing to work with the city and put the dumpster wherever you'd like it. The issue is this, that you've had two individuals come before you just now, Mr. Pedicini, who doesn't want it on the right side of the rear, and Mr. Cataldo, who doesn't want it on the left side of the rear. So we're willing to accommodate both. I think the best place to do that, as you all know, is site plan review, because that'll require us to move some other things around. I can just tell you that Popeyes is more than willing to do that. That's why the site plan has changed a number of times. There's also been a comment about traffic. There is room for more spots, but in our outreach to the community, some of the directive butters have asked us to push the building forward and to create an even wider setback than is required by zoning, and we've tried to accommodate that on this plan. So
Understood.
I guess my point is, there is flexibility on all these points. I'd suggest to the council that we're before you on a use issue, and that once the use is determined, the better place on what kind of trees to use and where to put the dumpster is where it's traditionally done in the city, and that's site plan review. Those are details that I know that my client is more than willing to accept, and it'll give everyone here an opportunity to express their feelings to Frank Stringy, so that when they sit down with the landscape architect, they can come up with something that hopefully works for everybody.
Thank you. And any councilors? Councilor Sereno, you being the ward councilor and on zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank the residents for coming out these last two meetings and for the conversations that we've had over the past few weeks on this matter. I do think Revere Dev has tried, and we've really, worked to put a better proposal than was even here a couple of weeks ago with regard to the trash mitigation and the hours. I want to say, I think the biggest complaint that I heard, the biggest concern was the traffic. And I don't deny, I don't argue, I don't dispute that there is a traffic issue on Sigourney Street, Derby Road. And in all honesty, that traffic issue expands as far as Charger Street, because what happens is a lot of people, since Market Basket came to Northgate 7 or 8 years ago, the Market Basket has really created a lot of traffic on Squire Road and into the streets off of Squire Road. From Keeney Street all the way down through Charger Street, there has been, an increase of traffic, specifically though, Sigourney and Derby. So with that, I've taken the liberty and I've spoken with a member of the Traffic Commission, and the Traffic Commission is more than willing to take a deeper dive. And you actually, as residents of Derby Street, you may have noticed the speed board on your street. I don't know if you've noticed it. It was placed there, I think, at the end of last week. The Traffic Commission is going to count the cars on Derby, on Sigourney, and I'm going to put a verbal motion in during tonight's meeting, and I'd like to read that motion because it is relevant to, as we discuss the traffic. So this will be a verbal motion tonight that the Traffic Commission conduct a thorough study of the impacts of motor vehicular traffic on the following residential streets off of Squire Road: Keeney Street, Augustus Street, Sigourney, Derby, Orvis, Gore, and Charger. The purpose of such a study shall be to gather data and include the car counts on these listed streets, along with data on the impacts of the Northgate Shopping Center and other Squire Road businesses on traffic on these residential streets. The ultimate goal shall be to implement a comprehensive traffic mitigation strategy to ensure these streets are not overburdened with vehicular traffic, and shall include the feasibility of reversing the direction of the one-way on Derby Road from Squire Road to Grover Street, meaning it would be a one-way so that people cannot make that right from Squire Road, as well as reversing the one-way on Sigourney Street, particularly on the top half from Malden Street to Grover Street. So the Traffic Commission is going to look at that and seriously consider that. So I also just wanted to add, I know that some information had went out to the neighbors on Derby Road and Sigourney Street, and included was an article about a Popeyes in Indiana that had opened and that had seen a massive influx in traffic. And I just want to point out that in that article, if you research, there was a small town in Indiana that opened a Popeyes, and there was a lot of traffic on opening day. But the closest Popeyes from there was 60 miles to Indianapolis. We have today 2 Popeyes in 2 adjoining communities, one in Everett, one in Lynn, one coming online in Woburn, one in Quincy. So this isn't going to be like when Krispy Kreme came to town or when Sonic came to town. I genuinely don't think there's going to be a massive influx. Again, I don't debate, I don't disagree that there is a traffic issue, and that traffic really does stem from Northgate and from Squire Road. So with that, I know we'd like to hear from other councilors, but that's
Thank you.
where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Serino. Councilor McKenna.
I have a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Councilor Serino. Can we put permit parking on Derby Street where one of the residents said that they're going to park there? If they can't find a parking space, they're going to park on Derby Street to go into the restaurant. Can we do something like that? I'm just asking you. Excuse me? It could be permanent parking.
I would want to hear from the residents, but I would be open to such a thing.
Okay.
I would also, and I apologize, do you mind if I also, the delivery apps, one of the residents brought up a good point about Uber Eats and DoorDash and whatnot, and I wonder if we could add in the conditions if it would be amenable to Popeyes if they did not utilize those apps at that location where there are 2 other Popeyes in the area. I don't know if that's something that's feasible, but I think that could be something too. But I apologize for going off track.
Thank you, Councilor Serino. And Councilor McKenna, Councilor Serino acknowledges there's other traffic concerns. I would want to relay any of the parking onto a whole, that would be a whole parking.
I still have,
Councilor
I've got a
McKenna.
couple of
Okay.
questions. Mr. D'Ambrosio, One of the things you said was new ventilation for food smell. Is that going to smell the whole,
It's going to be way better than what's there now. Okay, you have an old building with old ventilators.
But you were cooking donuts.
Well, no, you could cook any restaurant, right? So right now, as a matter of right, any restaurant can go in there right now, and you're going to utilize a facility that is what it is. This new structure will be up to code. It'll be up to the restaurant code guidelines. So yes, everything will be new. The ventilators
I
from
understand
top
that.
to bottom.
But I'm just asking, is the smell from the
No.
ventilation's going to go out into the neighborhood?
It would be a standard restaurant emanation with new code-compliant rooftop units.
Okay, and my other question is, can we put this in writing that trash pickup for Derby Street,
Yes.
for Gurney Street,
Yes.
be a part of that contract?
So we have two things. We have conditions to the special permit, and we have them drawn up, and they'll be submitted for your consideration. That will be one of the conditions. And if it's ever violated, all that needs to be done is someone call 311. It's all that needs to be. It's not so difficult. It's 311. Someone will investigate it. If there's trash there, there's a violation. That could lead to the revocation of the special permit. So that is the recourse. Again, it is a corporate owner. I can assure you that these people are going to take that very seriously. That's why they've put it in. On top of the condition, they're also going to include it in their operating procedure for this restaurant. They will have a protocol for trash pickup twice per day, where they send employees out to pick up trash. No other facility on Squire Road does that. At least that's my understanding right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're running, Council President, we're running into your time.
I know.
I think we might, go ahead. Councilman
One
Visconti.
question, so we're clear, Attorney D'Ambrosio. The trash pickup is going to be for solely the trash of the Popeyes. They're not going by to pick up everybody else's trash.
We are not
Okay, and
picking up the trash from the establishments on the other side of
I
Squire
agree,
Road.
so I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that that is noted, and nor should you, right? It's not it wouldn't be their responsibility to do so, so.
But again, we're
I just want to make sure we're clear on the trash.
And I think one other point with the trash that's an important one.
Thank you.
What the current facility does not have is fencing around it. This facility will be fenced off on 3 sides with an 8-foot high fence. That's going to go a long way in preventing anything from blowing around, right? The only open portion will be Squire Road. That is not the case currently.
Thank you. Councilor Rizzo, and also the conditions came over a little late. They did have a 10-foot buffer for the dumpster area between the residential sides, so that is in the special conditions from Frank Stringy. So you stayed in line with you from before. Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just very quickly, because I do understand we're under some time constraints here, but just a couple of things. This is to Attorney D'Ambrosio. The dumpster issue seems like that's something that we can resolve, right? So we can meet Mr. Pedicini's and Mr. Cataldo's. Are we pretty certain that because what I'm concerned about, if we're going to vote on this, and then usually we'll get the site plan review report that's kind of finalized, and then we'll vote on that. But if we're going to vote on this and then we're going to site plan review, is the permit already issued?
It's in the special conditions, 10 feet from any residential side of the property, minimum.
So right now, we could go with that condition and push it over. This is already about 8 feet, so we're talking about 2 feet. Okay, we could push it over the 2 feet. Or if through site plan review, we find that we can relocate it up along the side here, we can try that as well. I'm just hesitant about doing that without site plan review's input on this. As we all know, Frank Stringy in that particular commission has a lot of experience and knowledge on how they want to see these landscaping beds, and we're fully compliant with that.
Right. And then just one last thing, if I may, because one of the appealing things about this project is you're saying that entering and exiting is all going to take place on Squire Road. It is not going to take place on Derby Street or Sigourney. And, would they be willing to, because I'm just thinking down the road, all of a sudden they want to open up onto Sigourney. I mean, can we have that as part of the special conditions also, that they will never open up as part of the special permit going on to Sigourney or on to Derby?
Absolutely, yes. That is one of the special conditions.
That is one of
Okay.
the special.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I recognize there's a lot of questions that we want to get some firm answers to, so I'm going to refer this to the next, we're going to lay this, keep this in committee for the next meeting, because there's still going to be some more hard definitions that we would want to see. There is conditions which, again, they came over a little late. They were still within time, but they came over a little late. Clearly, some of the council hasn't seen them all, including myself, until 10 minutes before the meeting. So if it's okay with the rest of the council, we're going to put this into the next zoning subcommittee, Madam Clerk, on the 23rd. So this is going to stay in committee and zoning subcommittee until the 23rd. And that finalizes our business for this evening. Thank you.